You're so good at showing up for everyone else that you've become a phantom in your own relationships, and the people who actually matter are starting to notice. So I invite you to stay until the very end of this episode because there's 3 important reasons. First, you're going to understand why you have infinite patience for your clients, your students, your patients, but 0 tolerance for your partners asking what's for dinner. Second, I'm going to share the research on what Dr. Emily Nagoski calls completing the stress cycle and why you can't actually be present in your relationship until you metabolize what happened at work. And finally, we're going to do heart chakra work today, but not the passive send love and light stuff. We're doing active relational repair practices that work even when you're depleted, even when you do not feel like it, and even when you'd rather just be left the hell alone. So today we're talking about something that I just don't think gets said enough. How compassion fatigue and burnout don't just drain your work life. They quietly dismantle your relationships with the people you actually chose to love. And here's what makes this particularly brutal. You're not failing at relationships because you're selfish or broken. You're failing at relationships because the systems we work in extract every ounce of relational capacity you had during workday and then expect you to show up fully present at home. That's not a character flaw. That's a structural theft. So today, we're naming what's really happening in your relationships when you're burnt out, and I'm giving you 3 specific somatic practices that you can use to start building connection before the next distance becomes permanent. So here's what I'm seeing happening. We spend 10, 12, 14 hours regulating other people's nervous systems. We're holding space for their pain. We're managing their fear. We're translating very complex information into language they can digest while their world is falling apart. You're a relational virtuoso at work. And then what happens? We come home and your partner says, "Hey, how was your day?" And you either snap or give them nothing because there's literally nothing left inside. And here's something that nobody's talking about enough. That emptiness isn't about them. It's about the fact that your nervous system is still stuck in the trauma of your work. So Dr. Emily Nagoski's research on stress cycles explains this really well. When you experience stress, and sweet soul, as helpers and healers, work is chronic, unrelenting stress. Your body goes through a physiological cycle. It activates, it responds, and then it needs to complete. But sadly, we never get to the complete cycle. We go from one crisis to the next, from one EHR to maybe to all kinds of things, from one impossible decision to the next meeting. Your nervous system is revving at 8,000 RPMs all day long. And then you walk in that front door and everyone expects you to just, I don't know, be normal. If that's even a thing. To be you. To come home and be you. Your open, loving self. But after crisis after crisis after crisis, and it may not be a big C crisis, it may be a little crisis, but that's still revving up your nervous system. And it's very difficult to walk into the home and just be your lovely self. See, that's not how our nervous systems were designed to work. And this is where we segue into what I call the floating head that comes home. I don't know if y'all remember my concept of the floating head of competence I've talked about on the podcast some. But that dissociative state where you're hyper competent from the neck up, completely disconnected from the neck down. And yeah, my friend, she comes home with you. And the floating head, I mean, it's good. She can perform at work, but she absolutely cannot do intimacy. She can't be vulnerable. She can't tolerate emotional needs because she's still in survival mode. So when your partner reaches out for you, or your adult kids want to process something, or your best friend needs you to actually listen, the floating head either shuts down or lashes out. And then what happens? Guilt, shame. We feel like a monster. Because how can you have so much compassion for strangers and none for the people you love the most? Sweet souls, you're not monsters at all. But we've all been guilty of this. Here's what's happening. You're dissociated. And dissociation protects you at work, but it can destroy you at home. This is exactly what week 4 in my book, In Pursuit of Soul Joy, addresses. The relational wreckage of burnout and how to repair it without forcing yourself to be more present through sheer willpower. Because willpower does not work when your nervous system is locked in protection mode. You need somatic practices that actually complete the stress cycle so you can re-enter your relationships as that whole wonderful person that you are, not just a competent phantom. So digging into the research, it actually shows quite a bit about relationships and burnout. A 2019 study in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology found that healthcare workers experiencing burnout showed up significantly reduced. I'm sorry. They didn't show up. It was part of showing up, don't get me wrong. But healthcare workers experiencing burnout showed significantly reduced emotional availability in their primary relationships. And here's the kicker. It was not about lack of love. It was about nervous system depletion. Man, I wish I'd known about this 20 years ago. When your ventral vagal system, and that's the part of your nervous system responsible for social engagement and connection, when it's chronically taxed, it's going to go offline. You literally lose access to neural pathways that allow you to feel safe enough to be vulnerable. So back to Dr. Porhe's polyvagal theory. This does a really good job about explaining how this happens. When you're in chronic stress, your nervous system prioritizes survival over connection. It's not a choice, it's biology. And here's what makes this so devastating for women healers and helpers. We've been socialized to believe that being good means being endlessly available. That love means never saying no. And that care means depleting ourselves. So, when burnout makes us feel unavailable in our own relationships, we don't just feel sad. We feel like failures as women, as partners, as mothers, as friends. And that shame keeps us stuck. So I want to introduce you to a concept I call sacred resentment. That sharp, hot feeling you get when your partner asks you to do one more thing. When your adult kids expect you to manage their emotions. When your friends want you to show up for another event. That's not you being selfish. That's your nervous system screaming that your relational tank is empty. And everyone keeps trying to make withdrawals. Your resentment is information. Information to approach with curiosity and openness and hold space for it. Because it's telling you that the current relational dynamic is unsustainable, that you've been over-giving for so long that even reasonable requests can feel like attacks. And instead of honoring that information, most of us, and let's be honest, most of us just suppress it. We tell ourselves that, girl, you've got to be more patient. Good God, be more loving. Why aren't you more available for these people you love? Sweet soul, no. Your resentment is sacred. It's your body's last-ditch effort to protect you from complete relational collapse. The question isn't, how do I get rid of this resentment? No. The question is, what is this resentment trying to protect? Yeah, protect. It's actually working for you. So this is the work we do in weeks 5 and 6 of my book, In Pursuit of Soul Joy. Learning to read resentment as data instead of proof that you're a bad person. Because once you understand what your body is trying to tell you, you can start making different choices in your relationships. That's empowering. The book walks you through exactly how to have these conversations with the people you love without apologizing for having needs, without collapsing into guilt, and without losing yourself again. So, all right, let's get to the practical part of this podcast. Here are the 3 things you can do right now to start restoring your relationships while you're healing from burnout and compassion fatigue. So practice 1 is to complete the stress cycle before you walk in the door. So before you go home, you need to signal to your nervous system that the workday is over. And I don't mean mentally, I mean physically. Dr. Nagowski's research shows that the stress cycle completes through physical movement, creative expression, laughter, crying, physical affection. So here's what I want you to try. Before you walk in your front door or through your front door, sit in your car for 5 minutes and do this. Shake. Literally shake your body. I want you to start with your hands, then your arms and your shoulders. Let your whole body vibrate and release. Make noise. I like to make noise. Make noise if you need to. This isn't pretty. This is primal. You're telling your nervous system, that was then, this is now. We're safe to come home. Practice 2, name your relational capacity out loud. Stop pretending you're fine when you're not. We got to stop that. When you walk in and someone needs something from you, practice saying, I have about 20% to give right now. I need about 30 minutes to land, and then I can be way more present for you. Y'all, this is not cruel. This is honest. In fact, we're role modeling some very healthy things. It gives the people you love actual information instead of making them guess why you're distant or irritable. Most of the time, people aren't hurt by our limits. They're hurt by the silent withdrawal when we pretend we don't have limits. And then practice 3, micro moments of reconnection. Y'all, you don't need hours to repair a relationship. You need intentional micro moments, a genuine hug that lasts 8 seconds, eye contact while your partner is talking, putting your phone down completely for 5 minutes of the conversation. These tiny embodied moments of presence do more for your relationships than grand gestures you really don't have the energy for. And think about what makes what we do at work so healing. It's that therapeutic alliance, that complete presence we give the people we're working with. Practice that with your loved ones as well. Okay, let's drop into your heart chakra. Little somatic psychology and chakra psychology. We're not doing passive visualizations. We're going to do some active relational repair. I want you to think of one relationship that's been suffering from your burnout. Just one. And I want you to place both hands on your heart center, not gently, y'all, with pressure. You're literally holding your own heart. And I want you to say out loud, I'm not broken. I'm depleted, and I'm learning to come back. Feel that. The difference between broken and depleted is everything. Because broken means permanent. Depleted means recoverable. And now with both hands still in your heart, think about that one person. And I want you to ask yourself, what's one micro moment of connection I could offer this week? Not a big gesture, not a fixed relationship, one moment. Maybe it's texting them something that made you think of them. Maybe it's asking one real question and actually listening to the answer. Maybe it's saying out loud, I've been distant and I'm working on coming back. I want you to write that one thing down, commit to it, and then let the rest go. You don't have to fix everything today. You just have to take one step toward the people who matter. This heart chakra practice is expanded in week 8 of In Pursuit of Soul Joy, where we go deep into relational restoration without re-depleting yourself. Because y'all, you can heal your relationships without sacrificing your recovery. But you need a framework that honors both. So if you felt something shift in your chest during that practice, don't let it fade. Grab the book while that knowing is still fresh. It's available over on Amazon or on my website. Because the people you love are waiting for you to come home, and you deserve the roadmap that doesn't require you to disappear again. Sweet soul, Your relationships aren't failing because you don't have enough love. They're struggling because compassion fatigue and burnout stole your capacity to be present, and nobody taught you how to get it back. But here's what I know for sure. You didn't survive everything you've survived just to lose the people who matter most. You can come back, you can rebuild, you can be both boundaried and loving, both protective of your energy and connected to your people. It just takes different tools than the ones that we've been taught. So if this episode landed, share it with one woman who needs to hear it. We don't heal alone. And if you're interested in my book, I forgot, it's also linked in the show notes, so just drop down there. And I'm offering, and this is a new offer, but I'm offering a free consultation, no strings, just shoot me an email, schedule an appointment, and let's figure out, let's discern what your next step is to get you on that road of radiance. So until next time, take care of you.